Good, thank you.
It's preparing, and I'm going to start recording also. And we are now up on YouTube.
Okay, so can I start, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, great. Evening, everybody. Call to order the February 14th meeting of the Town of Rochester Planning Board. I'd like for everybody to stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United
States of
America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Nicole, would you do the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Chair Jones,
Here.
Vice Chair Zarowski,
Here.
Ms. Lindstrom,
I am here.
Mr. Williams, not here, Mr. Pinsky,
On screen.
Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Jarvis,
Here.
Ms. Maloney. And then we have our the attorney for the town, Mary Lou Christiana. She is present.
And
She's
also,
muted, but she's present.
and also planner,
yes, Liz Axelson.
Liz Paxton. There's Anne Marie. Hey, Anne Marie. How are you?
Patrick just joined also.
Who did?
Patrick?
Patrick? Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's get
Got
started.
him.
A couple of announcements. Everybody, I think, saw my note that Zach is now a member of the board, and Anne Marie has moved over to be one of the alternates. So I'm glad we have the total of 8 people. We just have them in different roles. So welcome, Zach, and Anne Marie. Thank you for still being here. Thank you, and Zach, thanks for coming on board. There's about 2 weeks ago, Nicole sent out a training reminder about a Zoom call called Clean Energy. It counts for your credits for the annual credits that we need to aggregate. If you have any questions about it, it's later on this month. Nicole can get it out to you again. I got a note from Mary Lou, and Mary Lou, maybe you can elaborate on it, but essentially, the governor, Mary Lou sent a note out, the governor decided to extend the COVID emergency, which means that due to the way in which the town board decided to handle all the meetings in the town, as long as there's a COVID emergency, the town meetings would be handled by Zoom. The emergency extends to March 16th, I believe, was the date, Mary Lou?
That's
So
correct.
is there anything else that you want to say about it, Mary Lou?
No, just unless the governor or the town board changes their mind about requiring or allowing in-person meetings, we'll be on Zoom.
Okay,
The governor can only make her executive orders for 30-day periods. So it had, today was the last day, 30 days will be the 16th. And then on the 16th of March, she may extend it again. So we kind of have to go month by month.
So we'll definitely be doing the next meeting, the next regular meeting of March 14th in Zoom. And then that brings up, we will have a workshop meeting. If you recall, we were going to have a training meeting that Mary Lou was going to lead in January. We pushed it to February. So we will do that. Mary Lou and Mark, I believe, are working on an agenda for that, the topics that'll be covered. So we'll do that. And then there are 2 other items that I want to add to that workshop meeting, and we'll probably start with the first one, Chromestone. If you remember Chromestone, this was the project that we approved the natural subdivision. And then the final step was for a lot line approval. They weren't on the January agenda, and I flubbed up on getting it on the February agenda. So we're going to do the workshop, and we'll have all the proper notices out for that. It's a simple lot line. There'll be a decision written, and we'll get through that. And then the second item, I received today in the mail from the supervisor notification of seeker process taking place for Walnut. Help me out here. Walnut Brook. That's the project that was talked about a year ago, maybe more. It's the property on 209 across from Kelder's on a kind of an angle. And it's proposed to be multi-unit, multi-family / affordable rentals. Town board is acting as the lead under the designation of the EEO, which is the Economic Enterprise Overlay Zone. So they're alerting us as an interested or an involved, actually, we're an involved agency, and asking for our input. So Nicole will be getting that up on the drive.
It's already up there.
Great, thank you, Nicole. And so what we'll do on at the workshop meeting is I'll gather suggestions. I'll have gather suggestions from the board. We need to respond to the town board by March 11th. So we won't be able to do this in our March meeting. We'll have to do it in the workshop meeting. So the workshop meeting may actually be a longer meeting than tonight's meeting. I'm not sure, but I think it'll be an interest.
I have a question for Mary Lou / Liz, because Liz is consulting the town board on the entire project, and it has to be decided if it's going to actually be, if they really will accept it as an EEO or not. Seeker's the first part to getting to see if they do that. We can use Liz the same way, correct, Mary Lou? It's okay to tag teamer, double user, like maybe ask the same questions, or what happens there?
Yes, it is. If for either Liz or I, if there starts being a conflict between the boards, I know I would recuse myself from both, and you'd both have to hire other counsel. I'm not
Okay.
sure what the policy is at CPL. So we'll let Liz speak to that, but hopefully everyone will be on the same page.
Yeah, I think,
And-
Mary Lou, one of the items I'd like for you to do at the workshop meeting is just to describe for this board the significance of the EEO designation. And we eventually will play a role, not just commenting on seeker, but actually reviewing the project. So the combination of us giving seeker input as well as the role that we do play as the planning board, I think it'd be good for you to give us kind of a quick overview of our role in this, if that
And
would
at
be
this
possible.
stage, Rick, it isn't even determined as an EEO. It has to be voted, so it's not an EEO yet.
Right. I think that's exactly what Rick was saying.
Right.
First, they'll determine whether they'll allow it to be an EEO.
Exactly.
If they do allow that, then it will come to you for review and it will be an EEO. If not, they would come back, if they so desire, under the old review.
Exactly.
Okay.
And my
Right, so-
question is, I would assume that the town board would want some kind of recommendation if this is a zoning action?
Because they already contacted you before on this.
Oh, I did a full review
Yeah,
of the application.
I think she means a planning board recommendation because it's
Right.
its
Yeah,
own.
yeah, exactly. That's why I asked originally, Mary Lou. If it's okay for us to say, get a full planning board recommendation while she's
Okay.
doing in parallel a full recommendation for the town board.
And I was
Yes,
just handed,
And you've done that before with me when there's been zoning changes. You've still been able to consult with me. If it gets to a point where there's going to be major disagreements or anything like that, then we'd recuse ourselves. But your role is recommendation, not at this stage.
And I
Okay.
can tell you all that I did just receive the submittal that the town board got. And I will be on for, to hear the discussion on Wednesday night at the town board meeting. But I was not asked to do any review per the original memo, so.
Okay, let's move on. That's, Just want to
Before you
alert
move
you.
on, before you
I
move
just
on,
wanna-
Rick, if the board is not comfortable with either Liz or I, being involved with both boards on this, let me know and I'll tell the town board to, one of you can use me and one of you can use someone else, or you can both use someone else, because I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable.
well, your role, Mary Lou, similar to Liz, is just advice, not decision-making. So,
Right,
Um,
absolutely, but, yeah,
Okay.
I'd be giving the same advice to both boards. My advice isn't gonna change.
so
And
we'll see what
Chair-
happens as it all evolves. And I don't want to spend too much more time on it. We'll get to it in the workshop, although, Mark, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I just want to let you know, Mary Lou and I are working in tandem to put the agenda together. We'll have that to you by the end of the week.
Okay, that's great. The agenda.
Hey,
for the-
Rick, can you
Patrick?
hear me?
Yes, I can. I can't see
Yeah.
you, but I can hear you.
Oh, it's all right. I can't see myself either. Something's messed up with my video.
Okay. Well, at least we can hear you.
Wow, yeah.
So you could sit there in your PJs if you want.
I don't know. The application keeps telling me my camera's being used by another application, but I have nothing else open, so I have no idea what's going on right now.
Reboot.
Patrick, anytime you're gonna speak, seeing as we can't see you, so we won't, we recognize your voice, but not everyone who's on the meeting would. If you could just identify yourself when you speak during the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right, let's move on to the minutes. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read the minutes. They were quite long. They were that 5-hour meeting that we had back in January. So I think they're turned out to be almost 20 pages long. Surian?
Yeah, I had a
You have
chance
comments?
to read them, scan through, but I noticed our last name are not used there, is substituted by first names. And I kind of wondering if outsider gonna read them would understand who was speaking. I don't think it's usual. We typically our last name mentions there.
Yeah, typically when Nicole does it, it's the last name. This time I did the minutes because Nicole was out sick. So I probably used the last name and then slipped into first name. So I told Nicole about that today and she's going to correct those. So I don't know, Mary Lou, if it's the board's desire to approve the minutes subject to making the change from first names to last names, that would be fine with me. We'll
that's
get
fine.
to that tomorrow. Are
That's
there
fine.
any
You
other
can make it
changes
with
to the
that
minutes?
No, you should keep doing them. You're good at it, Rick.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a
all right, let's
motion.
change-
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll make a second to approve with the modification that a word replace is done to put last names in for first names or full names in.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the January meeting?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
This is Patrick. Aye.
Thank you, Patrick. There's nobody opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the first project that we have on the
Can
agenda.
I ask a quick question? I'm sorry, Rick.
Sure.
Just a question for Mary Lou. Since Patrick's video is not working tonight, how does that work? Is he permitted to vote? I was under
Yes.
okay.
Yes, he is. Under the state rules right now for open meetings law, it can be by telephone or by video. So
Perfect.
he's good.
I just
He does not
remember
have to be
hearing
seen.
that the face had to be on, but I wasn't sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you, Mary Lou. All right, so the first project up is the Nicholas Shang Liu and Anita Markowska. And they're being represented by David Hahn. Is David with us? David, are you here? Perhaps he's been delayed. Let me just tell you where we are with this project. I think we can move forward. It's fairly simple. In speaking with Mary Lou, a number of questions the last time with this project. In speaking with Mary Lou, we determined that there was no need to get the approval of all the residents on this private road. The private road being Ridgewood Road. There was no need since there was no additional parcel and there's no additional driveways being added. So that took care of one of the issues. The other issue had to do with the map itself. So there is a better map, if you would, on your drive. And then David provided us with the request, and you have that also. Let me bring my copy up. With a request for a waiver from certain components of the major subdivision requirements. If you remember, this was a lot line, but because it was part of an original major subdivision was Rock Mountain Ridge, it automatically became a major. So David provided us with a memo, which is in your Google Drive, requesting a waiver from certain items. I went through that, and it's fine with me. In that waiver, he asked for waivers for some items, primarily because they don't apply. In other cases, he answered correctly that the information requested is on the map. So I'm fine with it.
I'd make a motion to approve the waivers.
I'll entertain a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Sam. All in favor of approving the waiver?
I
Anybody opposed?
Patrick, aye.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody opposed? All right, so we have 7 ayes, and the motion is carried. What I'd like to do now is to set a public hearing for the project for the next meeting of March 14th. I'll entertain a motion to set a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to set the PH for next March regularly scheduled meeting.
Fine, thank you. Maren, second.
Second.
I'll second.
Mark,
did
Mark seconds. Nicole, this is one, I'm going to take the vote in a second, but just a comment before we vote. This is one that not only do we have to send out notifications to the surrounding neighbors, but also to the town of Olive. So we have to do that as well. So I'll entertain, we have the motion, we have a second.
Rick, I just have one question before we vote, Rick.
Sure.
I know that we have to notify the town of Olive about this, but is there anything that we're looking for in their response? Are we expecting a response, or we just have to do it because that's procedural and we don't expect anything to come back?
Well, it's procedural, and whatever comes back, comes back. I can't imagine them objecting, but I could imagine on other projects that might have some major and significant impact on the town that they would have commentary that they'd want to submit for the public hearing. So Mary Lou, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's required by state law. It's very, very rare to get anything back from them. However, we're required to notify them, and maybe this will be the one.
Right, I knew that it was procedural. I just didn't know if we're actually expecting something to come back. I anticipate probably no response, which is okay, I guess.
I mean, I think you could, like, there was a controversial one going on in Olive that then that we would have been sent because it would have been on the other side. And then maybe we would have had somebody say it was a great big, let's say I'm making this up, but a 30 lot subdivision,
right.
Then we could have something to say on that, but this is insignificant.
Got it.
I could see significance where you have a project that might have runoff issues,
right,
onto one or other property that's in the other town. But okay, so we set
could be from the other town's road, and they might be concerned that the road can't handle 50 more homes or something like that.
Sure.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Then let's take a vote. All those in favor of setting the public hearing signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Patrick.
Aye, Patrick. Okay. Anybody opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. And so ordered. The next one is the Griffith project. Let me get my map.
Rick, can I make a comment on Shangaul? I'm sorry.
Well, we closed it. Is it important? We already
It's
closed
just,
that map.
it's just about a map. That location map, it's very difficult to relate what is on main. I don't see any road there that has a Ridgewood Road.
I tell you what, Zorian, I'll meet you in the office tomorrow or go into the office tomorrow. The map is there. I have it right here. Ridgewood is well marked. You may not be able to see it on the PDF, but everything's on the map. There's a much bigger, huge map that Nicole has.
Okay, I see that. Oh, okay, all right. I'll let you know because I'm going out of country day after tomorrow. So
Okay,
okay, never mind. Thank you.
thanks. All right, Griffith project. So if you recall, this is the project. It was a simple lot line, moving 7.7 acres from what was known as Lot 12 to Lot 13. If you're looking at your map, and excuse me for a minute while I bring my file up. So there was a lot line just moving, as I said, 7.7 acres from one lot to another. Since it was originally part of a major subdivision, it also qualifies as a major subdivision. The previous subdivision was known as Mountain View Stables. The Mountain View Stables subdivision went back to 2004. The map is up on your Google Drive. There's also a series of maps from 2006. We've already had the public hearing. We did seeker, we had the public hearing, and we closed the public hearing. I want to mention a couple of things that we were concerned with, and I want to give you some reassurance that I did look into it, and hopefully everybody will be satisfied. But let's see.
Do you want me to put the maps that you're about to reference up as you do it, or just leave this one?
Sure. Why don't you put up? That would be the 2006 map.
I'll try to be smooth, but okay, great.
Okay. So the 2006, originally the 2004 map showed two sites that had archaeological remains. It wasn't specific. There was just things there of an archaeological nature. And so that map was noted as such, and you could see it there. Sam brought it up. On what was called Lot 13, you see one archaeological site. And then further up the map, I think on Lot 15, there was another, or maybe it was, there it is. There's another one. It's trapezoidal in shape. So that's the 2004 map. As part of the 2006 map, if you can bring that up, Sam. There it is. As part of the 2006 map, move over to there we go, to that one. Okay. As part of 2006 map, certain changes were made. The lot numbering was changed. So what had been Lot 13 became Lot 12. What had been Lot 14 had become Lot 13. The road network was changed in its shape. It was all approved by the town of Rochester. This is from 2006. And if you notice down the bottom right, there's a note from Cpo. Sam, if you could expand that. And the reason I'm going through this is
you can't read it on the PDF.
I'll read the essence of it. You didn't have all of this available at the last meeting. I referenced it, but that note is from Cpo, and it simply says that Cpo is no longer interested in either of the archaeological sites on either of the parcels. And so it has no further interest in them and does not impact, and I'm paraphrasing, doesn't impact any kind of development near or over those particular archaeological noted sites. Just to make sure and that all was copacetic and try to get more information, Nicole wrote to Cpo. Remarkably, we got a response. They're tough to get responses from, but Nicole now knows somebody up there. So we did get a response, and I'll read it. Both of those archaeological sites were determined to not be eligible for inclusion in the state or national register of historic places. Once a site has been determined to not be eligible, we have no further concerns, and site protection and or further archaeological site investigations are not warranted. So that kind of puts to bed that whole issue. And when we did seeker, we did determine that it was either not significant, no significance, or moderate significance. This would suggest that there's no significance, and we're fine. So fast forward to the current map. The current map is exactly as the 2006 map. Again, we had the public hearing. There was a change made in this map to the positioning of the house. It was previously on lot 12. It was previously up, if you would, moving vertically, but now it's been moved to the middle of your screen. And you see there in blue the 7.7 acres. So we're now at that's being moved to lot number 13. So we're now at the point of having to make a decision. I have a decision, which I'm going to read. And Sam, that's also in the file, in the Google file. I'm going to read it. Sam, I may ask you to help participate in the reading. And then if there's any discussion about the decision or any comments, I'll entertain that when I'm finished reading it. So this is it on adoption by resolution of February 14th of both findings and final conditions of approval for project 2021-25 subdivision of Griffiths, Medrano, Binns, Fiorino, Murray major subdivision. Whereas an application for subdivision approval was submitted to the planning board for the project as follows. Application number is 2021-25. The application was submitted by M&E Civil Engineering and Land Surveying, agent for Robert Griffiths, Nicola Medrano, Daniel Binns, Leah Fiorini, Ben Murray, the project sponsors. Project sponsor, wherever used herein, shall mean and intended to mean the applicant as identified in the above referenced application, its successors in interest or assignees as may be appropriate. The property for this proposal is identified as tax map parcel number 77.1-4-12100 and same SBL, but lot 13.100, consisting of a total of 47.8, give or take, acres, located at 111 and 121 Peninsula Lane in the AR3 Residential Agriculture Zoning District in the town of Rochester. The proposal involves a request to re-subdivide the existing two lots numbered 12.100 and 13.100 with 33.3 and 14.6 acres respectively for single-family house development by taking 7.7 acres from lot 12 and adding it to lot 13, with resulting lot 12 now being 25.5 acres and resulting lot 13 being 22.3 acres. The resulting lot configuration appears to be consistent with the location of wells and septic systems shown on the submitted map, which wells and septics were approved during a previous subdivision review. Separate driveways are proposed, each of which would enter onto the existing shared private driveway known as Peninsula Lane. The applicants paid their application fees and deposited monies into an escrow account to cover the consultant charge for the review of the project in accordance with the current fee schedule and an agreement with the provisions of section 125-19 of TOR subdivision code and section 140-63 of the code of the town of Rochester. The applicants submitted drawings prepared by M&E Civil Engineering and Land Surveying, PC, as more fully listed at the end of this resolution, including filed subdivision map showing the two subject lots in their current configuration and the current map showing lot line improvement for lands of Griffiths, Medrano, Binns, Fiorini, and Murray, dated October 14th, 2021. And the application was accepted by the Planning Board of the town of Rochester on November 10th, 2021. The application was referred by the Planning Board of the town of Rochester to the town consulting planning and engineer, the town planning board attorney, the town highway superintendent, and the Accord Fire Company. And whereas the action is an unlisted action pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.4 and 617.5 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8 of Seeker of the Environmental Conservation Law, and the Planning Board concluded its review under Seeker by adopting a determination of non-significance, better known as negative declaration, at its regular meeting of February 14th, 2022.
Which should be
And-
corrected to January 10th.
Thank you. Liz, you'll note that.
I did, yeah.
And whereas the planning board reviewed the application and all supporting documentation and information pursuant to the standards and criteria for subdivision approval set forth in the Code of the Town of Rochester, Chapter 125, Subdivision of Land, and pertinent requirements and standards of Chapter 140 zoning. And whereas the project sponsor had previously obtained Ulster County Department of Health approval for waste disposal systems on existing lots 12 and 13 on February 25th, 2021, and August 5th, 2020, respectively. And whereas the planning board held a duly noticed public hearing on the completed application pursuant to Chapter 125, Section 125-12 on January 10th, 2022, which was closed on
Also, January 10th, Mary Lou noticed those dates.
January 10th, 2022. Both those should be January 10th. Okay. The findings, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board of the town of Rochester makes the following findings about this project. One, the planning board received zoning determination and classification that the subdivision is located in an AR3 zoning district and is a major subdivision per correspondence from the code enforcement officer received November 15th, 2021. Two, this was typed as a major subdivision after a lot line change was proposed to a previous subdivision of a map of revised Section 2 of Mountain View Stables subdivision dated March 6, 2006. Three, the proposed two-lot re-subdivision, which would result in two reconfigured lots for single-family homes, was discussed at regular and workshop meetings of the planning board held on December 13th, 2021, January 10th, 2022, and now February 14th, 2022, during which the planning board, its consultant, and the applicant's representative discussed the site's land use and natural features, including on-site floodplain areas, the Rondout Creek and wooded areas, the site's topography, the previously approved lot configuration and nearby agricultural district lands, and four, in response to materials set forth by the applicants as well as the town's consultants, along with comments from the planning board, the board finds the following impacts and determinations based on the most current plan set dated October 14th, 2021, including since there is no proposed change or increase in land development, then there will be no change in or an increase in stormwater runoff from the proposed re-subdivision based on the stormwater management and erosion and sedimentation control plan review of the originally approved and filed subdivision. And B, the proposed lots will comply with the AR3 zoning district lot area and bulk requirements and pertinent subdivision design and requirements. 5, given the above noted findings, the requested waivers of certain specified major subdivision requirements as set forth in the January 10th, 2022 letter submitted by M&E Civil Engineering and Land Surveying PC on behalf of the applicants appear to be reasonable given no substantial change in the scale of development. These findings haven't been prepared by the board and read and discussed at the meeting of February 14, 2022. The board hereby adopts these findings on February 14, 2022 by the following vote. Do I have a motion to approve these findings?
Make that motion.
Sam, second.
I'll second it, Patrick.
Patrick seconds. Any discussion about the findings? There being none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And Patrick, I thought I heard you say aye.
Patrick, aye.
Thank you. There being no opposition, the motion to approve the findings is adopted. Conditions of approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Rochester Planning Board hereby grants the requested waivers of certain specified major subdivision requirements as set forth above in reference to the January 10th, 2022 letter submitted by M&E Civil Engineering and Land Surveying PC. Be it further resolved that the Town of Rochester Planning Board hereby grants major subdivision conditional final approval of the proposed two-lot re-subdivision situated at 111 and 121 Peninsula Lane, Accord, New York, as depicted on the map showing lot line improvement for lands of Griffiths, Madreno, Binns, Fiorini, and Murray, as prepared by M&E, dated October 14th, 2021, subject to satisfactory compliance with the following conditions. Number one, the project sponsor shall reimburse the Town of Rochester for all costs incurred by the town for the review of this subdivision proposal. The final plat for the subdivision will not be stamped and signed by the planning board chair unless and until all appropriate costs incurred by the town for the customary and necessary review have been paid for by the applicant by either means of the escrow account established at the initial application stage or by check payable to the Town of Rochester. Two, the application shall present a final plan for signature that includes the following plan notes. A, driveway access and construction shall be as shown on the final subdivision plan. Any changes to location or grade from the approved plan shall require planning board approval. B, right to farm note. This property may border a farm as defined in Chapter 75 of the Town of Rochester Code. Residents should be aware that farmers have the right to undertake farm practices which may generate dust, odor, smoke, noise, and vibrations which may involve insecticides, herbicides, pesticides, etc. C, no further subdivision of this parcel is permitted without the prior approval of the planning board. Number three, revise the map showing lot line improvement for lands of Griffiths, Madreno, Binns, Fiorini, and Murray to be entitled Final Plat showing subdivision for lands of Griffiths et al. Number four, the owner's consent block shall be signed and dated by the owners following the date of the last revision and prior to the chair signing the plat. Five, before any building permit shall be issued, the following additional conditions shall be met. Oops. Go up. There we go, Sam, right there. Thanks. Before any building permit shall be issued, the following additional conditions shall be met, and pertinent items shall be clearly shown on building plot plans and verified by the code enforcement officer, building inspector. A, all required local, county, state, or federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands. B, plat plans with soil erosion and sediment control plans for grading shall be submitted for each plat before issuing building permit. C, lot development, including the limits of disturbance for a lot, shall conform to the subdivision plan for each parcel. Any limit of disturbance for a lot shall not be increased from that shown on the subdivision plan without further planning board approval, and any stormwater mitigation as may be required by the town or New York State DEC. This conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to and the resolution by the Town of Rochester Planning Board. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants major subdivision conditional final approval, permitting the lot line change between lots 12 and 13 of the original subdivision map of revised Section 2 of Mountain View Stables subdivision dated March 6, 2006, as depicted on the map showing lot line improvements for the lands of Griffiths et al. As prepared by M&E Civil Engineering and Land Surveying PC dated October 14th upon a satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 to 4 above. The effect of the approval, the owner shall file in the office of Ulster County Clerk such approved plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, Section 276. And 2, the owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies. That should be Actually, 5. All right, that should be,
3 copies is what comes back to us after it's certified by the county,
oh, that's right.
That's
I'm sorry.
correct.
One stays with the, that's right. Okay, sorry.
because the county keeps 2.
Right, sorry. 5 minus 2 is 3. Thank you, Nicole. 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the file plat and any other related documents to tour planning board within 30 days of such filing. Anybody have any comments? I do have one, but I'll allow the board to speak first.
I have a couple, Rick.
Go ahead.
We don't have the name of the owners across the Rondout, and we always do that. That's that's basically the border. So we always say, across the road, that includes across the creek. So that would be Shoemaker, Davenport, Delacour, whatever. So we should have a condition that they need to add in the people across the street. And also, when you do a ag statement, it needs to be sent to the county. So that should be a condition too. I don't know.
The findings, the conditions need to be sent, the ag.
No, the ag data statement needs to be sent to the county.
Yes. Okay.
So we didn't send it to the county, so we have it, it should be sent. And this
Okay.
is just a small pet peeve, but on the ag data statement there, it says see below for the people of just the agricultural, and there's no below to see. So Heather should write in the names of those farms. It's an incomplete ag data statement. So if you send it to the county, they're going to say, well, this is great, but you don't list any of the agricultural properties that are around it.
There's an attached spreadsheet on the next page. I don't know
Yeah,
why it's not there, but it's, I can cram in 20 addresses onto that sheet if you'd like me to do that.
Well, we
That
have
didn't-
some sheets
well, that
already.
didn't-
Separate
that
spreadsheet.
didn't come through. So
I
Okay,
can
so-
resend it with the map because it requests a map and a list of all the adjoining. So, and it was attached, but I'll resend it.
So just to make sure
Okay.
we have that, so we send it to the county, it doesn't go with nothing on it.
All right, so Liz, would you make a note that we have to add those conditions? That one condition being the names, and apparently it's there, just didn't make it to this decision, but would you, that condition that the names of those homeowners across the Rondout are added, that the names of the farms, and that Nicole will have to send that ag statement to the county.
And then after, if anybody else has any questions after that, I'd love Heather to refresh why this is being done, if she knows, because we have 3 families that own these properties. There was a purchase from Shealy of 33 acres with multiple owners. And then there was the purchase of the 14 what's the whole scoop why they're doing this? A refresh I'd love, but I'll let everybody ask other questions before she comes back to that.
I've got something. Can the attorney, I'm not a board member, but I have something as well.
Go ahead, Mary Lou.
Up at the top of the decision portion, it should say preliminary and conditional final because it's a subdivision. We have to give preliminary approval before we give the final.
Okay,
So everything, all the headers,
Together.
preliminary and conditional.
Right, thank you.
preliminary and final. Conditional.
And conditional final.
And
Mary, before we get to the answer to your question, I have a question for you, Mary Lou, and it came up in my review of this. If you look at the map, the way the original driveway was configured on the original map from 2006. I don't know how long that original driveway was, and but this one is over the 500 feet, and this is to lot 12. So that driveway for lot 12 is probably 900 feet. Does the requirement for around the fire code of having pull-offs apply? And does it?
That's already approved. That road's not changing now. That's already approved.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. That was the only question I had.
I
And-
have something.
Heather, can you address? All
Liz has something too, Rick.
right, let's address Marin's question. Heather, would you be able to address her question?
Yes, the 6 folks that own the 3 couples that own lot 12 want to share the property. They wanted to have equal size properties, lot 12 and lot 13. So that was the closest we could get while maintaining the setbacks and the septic systems where they are. So they just wanted the lots to be the same size.
Okay.
And so you have, I know this is none of our business, is what Mary Lou's going to tell me, but
Or I may tell you.
but you've got 3 people in 2 houses. One person's just an investor, I guess, or just.
I have no idea what their financial arrangements are.
Hey,
Okay.
Lauren, it's none of
Yeah.
our business.
I knew it. It was a curiosity, in case you knew. I knew it.
Okay, let's move on. I heard somebody else
I
that had a
just-
question.
Rick,
Liz did.
I'm sorry, Liz, just a quick thing. I found the spreadsheet, Heather. You don't have to resend that. I
Oh,
did
okay,
throw it up
great,
on the Google
thanks.
Drive.
Great.
So it is there. I don't know, it just got missed. There were a lot of documents.
So
Thank
then
you.
the condition is that the ag statement just needs to go to the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. That
Good
and
find.
then adding the
Names of
February
owners
5
across the
across.
rundown.
Was there another question from somebody?
Yes, Liz had one.
Liz, go ahead.
So when Rick and I were wordsmithing this thing, the one, because I wasn't involved in the review, and the one concern that came up is in the waiver request, obviously it's clear that a lot of stuff was addressed in the prior subdivision. The thing is that this is a separate plan set. This isn't going to be refiled with the former subdivision plans. So one of the things that I found lacking was just the boilerplate sedimentation and erosion control stuff per lot. So I had come up with something. I'm just going to read it. Add plan notation referring to a soil erosion and sediment control plan sheet and details thereon pertaining to single family lot development. I'm taking a lot of this from Medenbach and Egger's typical erosion sedimentation control per lot. And add such plan sheet to the set, including the necessary details, including but not limited to typical home site soil erosion and sediment control detail, silt fence detail, stabilized construction entrance detail, concrete washout detail, typical driveway section, vegetative protection detail, and dry swale detail, and other details. So I grabbed a plan set from the Malatesta, and it was plan sheet, and I don't know if I can share it.
No, don't share it. So
Nope.
Liz, you and I talked about this, and I don't want to share it.
Okay,
Like
that's-
Mary Lou says, it's a great idea, but here's how I came out. This is a lot line gone to a major. There's already reference to having to get building department approvals of one sort or another. And I just didn't see the need for something like this, moving the 7.7 acres, the need to add another tear sheet to the plan set, which goes through all the sedimentation control and swale comments that we would normally have for something like Malatesta, where we were starting from scratch. So Mary Lou, could you weigh in before we get way out over us?
Yeah, I think that the only change here is to a lot line. This subdivision, the major things have already been reviewed in the past, where, as you said, Rick, this is not a new subdivision. It's just a change in a lot line, and I myself am satisfied with things as they are.
Okay.
And you might want Heather to weigh in on this. I'm not sure if she wants to or not.
You know where I would weigh in on this.
I'm going to ask Heather to hold her tongue. So I'm going to just move forward. Liz, it's great. and
Understood. I got it.
for
It's fine.
Malatesta, But on something like this and it going forward, I don't see the need for it, but it's good to have the discussion. So I appreciate that. Finding no other comments, Zurian?
Yeah, in the same theme, going forward, do we really have to go in similar situation with so many details when we just lot line adjustment? Can we just take it as it is and talk about lot line adjustment?
Unfortunately, the way the code is written, we have to look at these as major subdivisions and grant all those waivers. Hopefully, when the town board looks over the zoning committee's suggestions, they will look at this as well, and they will change the language. But we are stuck with the language of the code.
Yeah, because we cannot really change anything except for lot line adjustment.
So I think the length that you're speaking of, I share your pain in going through it when it's really only a lot line.
Right.
So we'll all share the pain, and it is what it is because that's what the code says. All right, thanks, Zurian.
Okay.
All right, hearing no other comments, I'm going to move for a vote, or first for a motion to move forward with the vote.
A motion to accept preliminary and conditional final as amended, presented and amended.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
That's what you're looking for, right, Rick?
Are you making the motion? No, you can't. I'm sorry.
I can't.
Who wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that Mary Lou just said.
Second,
Second.
Zurian. All in favor, signify by aye.
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 Patrick?
Patrick, aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Nicole, note that Ms. Lindstrom is opposed.
And I don't think it fits as you were arguing that it is in spirit a lot line. It doesn't fit what our lot line says. And as a major subdivision, then I don't think also is necessary within a major subdivision. But if you read what a lot line is, this doesn't improve the ability of the parcel to comply with setback or other building standards. It doesn't increase the suitability of the parcel for building development. It doesn't add to the availability of open space, nor does it adjust a boundary line location or produce corrected deed, and it does reduce the ability of the lot from which the lot improvement parcel is taken or reconfigured to comply with the applicable development standards. It makes it a harder lot to develop. So that's my thinking of it, that it takes away from the one lot and makes it a tougher lot because it's substantially slopey. They have to have a really long driveway, and quite a bit of their lot is in the flood zone. So while they may have the same numbers, each of them now, of acres, they aren't the same piece of land.
All right. So thank you, Marilyn. That was a really well-reasoned reason for voting against it. The vote carries 6-1. Mary Lou, so noted. Thank you, Marilyn. Mary Lou, could you comment, because you and I also had a similar discussion. Yeah. In general, I get confused for the same reason. You have a lot line, but then it moves to a major. So are we looking at it as a lot line with the qualifications for a lot line, or is it now a major and we have to use the major?
It's now a major, and you can waive those things you want to waive. You know, when we say it's only a lot line, we're not saying it is the same thing as is set forth for a lot line change in the code. We're saying it's an amendment to a major subdivision, but that amendment is merely moving a line. So it's merely adjusting a line. And I understand what Marin's saying, but
yeah, I do too.
But I think we're probably using just a lot line differently.
Yeah, I think, you know, I know we have a great deal of rigor on what qualifies as a lot line. I want to continue with that because there are qualifications for what is a lot line. But this is a major subdivision encompassing a lot line change. I think is what you're saying. All right, let's move on. The next one is the
Sorry,
default.
Rick, I just wanted to let you know that Dave Hahn had joined the meeting. He's representing Shane Glue Markowska. I just wanted to let you know that he was here. I didn't know if you wanted to fill him in, or do you want to push that to the end, or how do you
Yeah,
want to
let's do this. Let's go through. Thank you, Nicole. Let's do DeForest, and then when we finish DeForest, and before we move into the rest of the agenda, I'll just give David an idea of what we did.
Sounds good.
So as not to keep you in suspense, the project is moving forward, David, but I'll tell you more details in a few minutes. So this is the DeForest project representing John DeForest is Heather Gabriel from M&A. If you remember last time we had, we saw the same diagram. There were a number of comments. I think many of them have been addressed. So I'll just mention the ones that have, and those that, from what I can see, have not, but I'm sure they'll be on the final map. So we wanted to see the AP overlay on the map. We wanted to see it. No, go ahead,
Rick,
Heather.
the whole area of the map is under the AP overlay. So I'm not sure how I should show that, other than to put
just put a
stipulate
note.
under the whole map.
How about just putting a note on the map that the entire area is AP overlay? That'd be great. And then we had asked for, and it may be there, but I didn't see it. No further flag lots was a comment made for lot number 2. It wouldn't be allowed given the amount of space there is, but we'd like to see a comment, no further flag lots.
Just that standard flag
Yeah, just,
lot, no, okay.
yep. You removed the ghost line that's Sam had pointed out, so thank you for doing that. There was some sort of ghost line there. Right to farm, that will have to be one of the notes, the right to farm note. I don't know that we've gotten the deed yet, Nicole. Maybe you can check while I'm talking whether we have the deed or not. I didn't see it.
I don't remember sending it to you, but I got it in my file somewhere, so.
If we could get the deed, thank you. And then the only other thing, Heather, I know that the applicant, you represented the applicant, was willing to have a condition that said that the second well would be drilled before I sign the final map. And I just want to check that that's still the case.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, that, conditional approval is based on the installation of said proposed well, so.
Okay, so that's still
Yeah.
the case, and we need a
Yeah.
map to that. Okay, that would be one of the conditions and a map note. So why don't we do this next? We're going to do the public hearing, but before that, we need to do seeker. So Sam, could you pull up the seeker form? It was in the Google Drive. It was filled out. Got ahead of the game this time. There we go. So I'm going to go through this. This is part 2, the impact assessment of this project. I'm going to read through them. If anybody has any comment, just stop me. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adapted land use plan or zoning? No or small impact. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No or small impact. 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area? There is none in the area, so it's no or small. 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect the existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking? No or small impact. Both houses are currently there, so there's no increase there. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy or opportunities? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies, or B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Both are a no, and you heard the applicant's representative represent what they intend to do to provide well capabilities for that lot that currently doesn't have it, so we're good there. 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact. 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact. 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact. Part 3, determination of significance. No moderate or large impacts were noted in the short form. No impacts are anticipated to occur, as no land development or disturbance is proposed, with the exception of drilling the well, and that's it. Therefore, we've checked the box that we have determined, based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So what I proposed is that under seeker, that this is a unlisted action and a negative declaration. Mary Lou, I hope that's the right terminology.
You did well.
Thank you. But I'll still be at training. How's that? And Nicole, we need to do a roll call for this one.
And
Do you have a second?
Thank you. All right, Mr. Zarowski,
Aye.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky,
yes,
Mr. Grosso,
Yes.
Mr. Jarvis,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. So the board has accepted the seeker determination. Okay, so we can now entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
You don't need a motion for
Just
that. You
open
can
it.
just
Okay.
open it.
I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody here from the public that wishes to speak on this project, the DeForest project? Sam, anybody raising their hand, Sam?
No, it doesn't look like there's any hand raising. There are a few people here from the public, but they're not muted and they're not saying anything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I just logged in to see what the proposal was. It's, I guess, the structures are existing and it's just a change to give access and separate the houses. There's no new construction happening. So
That's correct.
yeah, I'm okay with it.
And then drilling of a well.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Anybody else from the public? And your name is Peter Hunston?
Yeah, I'm the lot directly across Boyce Mill Road.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing no other member of the public that wishes to speak on this, going once, going twice, gone. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Lauren, second.
Second. Sam.
Patrick? I think that was Patrick. Patrick,
That was
second.
Sam.
That
Sam,
was
Okay.
Sam.
I got it.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Patrick, aye.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Subject to the new New York State law, we can't make a decision. Hang on, Zurian. Can't make a decision until the next meeting. So, Zurian, do you want to say something?
yeah, looking at that map, it's unclear to me. I understand that location of proposed well is not final, but as it's shown, how we pass in situations that existing septic field within 100 feet.
Well, clearly,
Yeah.
before they
It's
drill the
not.
well, they're going to have to meet all the requirements with regards to septic, right?
Of course.
They're showing the 100-foot radius.
Yeah, but they're showing radius, but the septic right inside of it.
No, it's not.
No,
It's not within the 100, it's not within the circle, Zorian.
Well, hold on, please. Existed septic
Sorry,
tank.
that's the-
Existed septic tank. So it's not significant.
no, it's the tank.
Okay, so tank could be within, but field not.
Heather, would you
think it's
comment
50.
on that?
I believe it's 50 feet. The septic tank can be within the distance of the well.
Okay.
So you have the tank and then you have the fields. So the tank is over 50 feet and certainly the fields are over 100.
Okay. Thank you for
Zorian,
clarification.
Zorian, let's try it if you have comments. Let's do it before we take votes. Or we have a public hearing or before
Okay.
we close the public hearing. You remember the board, you can make a comment before the public so that the public can hear it also. So no need to
Okay.
wait until the end. All right, so this will be on the agenda for next meeting, the meeting of March 14th for the decision.
So I'll wait until the final decision is written before I go and submit a new map, or do we want to do an interim?
To speed things up, it'd be great if you can get us the map before then.
That would be great.
Right, but
because
at the
then
same
it- we
time,
write-
I don't know what's on the notes, so I'd like to have this decision in front of me before I print Mylars, because they're not cheap.
So Liz will work on the decision. We'll have it in about a
Okay.
week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, great, that's the only thing. I just want to make sure I have everything as
So
it's stated in the decision.
All right, and we'll share that with you so you can get on the Mylar.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I have here something about no further flag lots, remove ghost line, right to farm note, submit a deed.
Yeah, well, those aren't necessarily things that need to go on the map. I think Heather was concerned about. Liz, we'll go through all those things. We went through them already. We'll go through all those things when you're writing the decision.
Okay.
I'll go through them all with you. I don't want to go through them again. I went through them once already. Okay. So let's move on to other matters.
Or did
Did you-
you want to talk about Shanglu first?
Yeah, mention to
Oh,
Shanglu, he's good to go.
David. So,
Good night, everyone.
hi, Heather.
Hey,
So
Heather.
David,
Thanks, Heather.
Welcome.
all right,
Yes,
so,
I'm,
Night,
yes,
Heather.
I'm here.
Good night.
so the board was satisfied with your request for the waiver of major subdivision requirements.
Fantastic.
And we set a public hearing for March. So this will be on a public hearing for March.
Okay,
All right, and the agenda will be produced about a week and a half before the actual meeting, so you can see where you are on the agenda.
okay,
All right. So it's
Uh,
moving forward.
great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Next month.
All right. I'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
You
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, let's go on to other matters. I want to do the easy ones first. CDG, if you remember then, the Ridgeview, CDG Ridgeview was the 5-lot subdivision up on Ridgeview Road. They're asking for us to do a site visit. I'd be happy to do a site visit sometimes starting at the end of February or the beginning of March, assuming we don't have 5 feet of snow. But what we have right now, cold weather, and presuming there isn't a lot of ice, we should be okay. I'm all right. Is everybody on the board willing in the first week of March to go on a site visit for this project? Anybody
I'm
not? Let's put it that way.
I will not be here
I
as
will
of
not. I will
tomorrow.
not.
Okay, Maren, you won't be here?
I'm not, we're going down to South Carolina, so I won't be here until the end of March. We come
Okay,
back.
Zorian?
Yeah, I will be here, but I won't be able to go.
Okay, all right, so Nicole, why don't we'll have to do 2 visits, so we have only 3 people on each visit. And, Maren and Zorian, if later in March, time permitting, and you want to go, I'm sure we can arrange something.
Yeah, it should give us enough time that even if you go for the visit, you can move through on, the process and we can go see it after? Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be done by March.
No, no. And
Rick, I'm assuming they'll
Nicole,
have
will we
it.
send the notice out? Just
Sam's saying something.
I'm assuming they'll have it flagged like we discussed the last time we were on the
It's
agenda.
already
Okay,
flagged
great.
and staked. Yep.
Great, great.
The engineer emailed me. He's like, the property is flagged. When do you guys want to come and see it?
and let everybody know, even those who said they can't make it, let them know, Nicole, in case their schedules change and they want to make it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And remember to do it in more than one visit so
Yes.
that we don't violate
We don't
open, meeting-
violate open meetings law.
Right.
Okay.
3 people, right, Mary Lou? 3 people per visit?
right now, more than
Can't be more
three.
than that.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. In one of the folders, there's a folder under PB notated as application checklist. I just encourage you to keep trying to use that in reviewing projects. It gives you a good idea of what's required depending upon the type of project. There it is. Thank you, Sam. I'm not distributing this to the public yet. They're still getting the package that they've been getting for X number of years since the previous chairs put the package together. I'd like everybody on this board to get familiar with it, to ask some questions about it, maybe to find some things that needed to be added. So this is for our internal use at this point. I just want to mention that again. Quick status of projects, and there were probably only 4 projects that you might remember, 3 major ones from last time. But real quick, Lucky Petroleum, we haven't heard anything back. I'm sure they're working on all of the comments that we gave them.
It seems that they're preparing to be on the March agenda, hopefully.
Okay.
That was the last correspondence I had.
Okay, and they know the deadline 2 weeks before the meeting.
Yes, they double, triple checked that with me.
McCarthy, which is the project next to the current Valero station out by 209 and Queens Highway. They'll be back in March. I just want to disclose that myself, Mary Lou, Liz, and Maureen had a meeting with their representatives to try to resolve the issue with the road, or the driveways rather. If you remember, they wanted a few too many driveways coming out onto 209. And so we had volunteered to try to work something out or give them some options. We did. They haven't decided, but I'm anticipating that for March, they will have decided which options we gave them. They've decided upon. It did sound as if they're okay with everything coming out of Queens. That was probably the only, well, and also it looks as though that lot on 209 will now become commercial, not residential, and it won't be crossed with a residential driveway. That seems to be the direction. So, but we'll wait for them to come in March. Let's not assume
Hey,
that
Rick.
they come. Who's that, Patrick? Yeah.
Rick?
Yeah.
This is Patrick. Yeah, sorry about the video. I would like to, if I may, I would be interested in knowing, and I don't know how this would work or how we would work it, but like some of the projects that we've gone through and done approvals on and have been carried through, like the Crested Hen and the Animal Sanctuary and any number of the other ones that were controversial, is there any way of getting feedback as to how successful we were in working out the difficulties with these places and the neighbors? I mean, is there a list? Are there complaints going on about them? It would clarify my head a little bit sometimes on some of the future decisions that we make as to how successful we were with the past ones.
Really, the only thing you could do is check with the building department to see if there's been any complaints or reports about the various projects, because, you know, it doesn't come back to us unless it's something that we've given a limited special use permit to, like we did with Crested Hen initially.
Right.
So yeah, once I think that's a good point because I like what you're saying about when you make future decisions, it would be nice to know how the past decision's working out. But really, the only way to do that is to ask the building department.
Okay, thank you.
So, Patrick, it jogged a couple of things that I've learned from controversial projects, and not to mention, well, one of those projects you mentioned, the animal rescue place, they haven't broken ground. In fact, I'm not even sure whether their approvals have expired or not. I'll have to check. I know they asked for an extension once
They got an
already.
extension. I think that extension's up around
I think
May.
it's April, May, it's up, yeah.
April, May,
Yeah.
yeah. So that hasn't even gotten anything in the ground yet, Patrick. But my only comment of how I think about these for the future, how I think about it, is if it's a project that creates noise of some sort, and I'm probably using the wrong term, or has a venue of music, that the requirement to submit reports on the level of music, I would probably insist that whoever the audiologist is chosen by us, and that the reports are done by somebody of our choice, paid for by the applicant, in order to ensure consistency and accuracy. If you remember, one of the projects, they hadn't been consistent in submitting reports to the building department. And it was at the time when they were looking for their permanent approval of a special use. And they agreed that they would play well in the sandbox going forward and submit the reports on time. I haven't checked whether they have or not, but it just seems to me that experience, and that goes back 2 years, I would want somebody of our choice to do that kind of function. But that's the only reflection that I have on past projects, Patrick, that I off the top of my head.
Okay, well, thanks.
All right. So we talked about the McCarthy, the project next to Valero. We talked about Lucky, the Frisch project, which was a project out on, it was on a private road. I don't even remember where, but haven't heard back from them. That was the project where I guess they hadn't anticipated going to all the owners on the private road to ask permission to have 3 more driveways built. So haven't heard back. And on Honeycomb Hills, they'll be on the March agenda. I also want to disclose that I had a meeting, myself, Mary Lou, Liz, with the applicant and their professionals to work through some of the issues that Liz had brought up in her review and some questions that the applicant had. So I think it's safe to say we're over that hurdle and that they'll be on the agenda for the March meeting. So that was the Honeycomb Hills out on Beehive Road. So that's just a quick update on the major ones that might be coming up. So let's shift to the application fees. Sam, could you bring up the folder for the application fees?
You want the spreadsheet up, Rick?
All right, so let me just tell you why we're doing this. At the time of the town, in anticipation of the town having their annual reorganization meeting in January, Mike had asked me whether or not I guess he probably asked me in November, did we have any recommendations? And I gave him some recommendations, but I never had a chance because of the way our meetings fell. And I didn't realize that he wanted the recommendations for the first meeting of the new year. I didn't have a chance to get face-to-face input from this board. Many of you did send me comments and suggestions, but I wanted to have a discussion around the table with the board members on the recommendations. Having said that, they did adopt some changes to escrow. And one of the changes was to a lot line where the lot line becomes a minor or a major, that the amount of escrow, initial escrow, would grow from 100, well, would grow from nothing rather to $250, which is probably not enough, but and so we may want to talk about that. That should be more. And then both minor and major subdivision and site plan made modifications or recommendations that the escrow be 1,000 for a minor, 1,500 for a major, and anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 for a site plan. I'm less worried about escrow because the applicant just needs to fill the escrow as the fees go, although there's something to be said for anticipating what the escrow cost is going to be and not having sticker shock as the project moves on. So for example, we had one lot line that went to a major just recently where it's going to cost more than $250. It's probably going to cost in the range of $1,000 because of the decision that the writing of the decision, somewhere between $750 and $1,000. So I'm a little bit less concerned with escrow, but you all may have some opinions about that. I was more concerned about the application fees, and I did not make any recommendations to the town board about application fees, wanting first to get the input of this board, detailed input from this board. So I got input from Liz and I got input from Lauren. What you see in front of her, and I did get some phone calls from other people on other points as well. Zorian sent me some comments. Patrick actually is chafing at the bit. I know he wants to be first out of the gate to make some comments about the fees. So we'll do that in a minute. But these are Lauren's recommendations. By the way, they parallel very closely Liz's recommendations, which are also there. But let's use Lauren's chart, which is well laid out and is a point to jump off. And I'm going to go around the table to get opinions about the need to raise fees at all. Keep in mind, we're probably the low cost vendor in the area. I'm okay with that. It's having said that, we're close to Washington, somewhat close to Marbletown and Hurley, but other towns like New Paltz, the village of New Paltz, the town of New Paltz, and their fees are through the roof, particularly their recreation fees. For good reason. Many of them, New Paltz has many parks. So if you have any opinion about raising fees, just philosophically, be happy to listen to them. If you want to compare the fees as they are today, which you have on your Google Drive versus, or we have here rather, Sam brought up first, the current PV fees and the proposed, let's kick it around. But I like to come out of this meeting with a sense of the board that leave it be or raise them. And if we're going to raise them, somewhere in between where we are now and what's being proposed on this page. So with that, Patrick, I'll go to you first, and then I'm going to go around the virtual table and get input from everybody. Patrick?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd just like to say that, and this is an opinion on my part, that the government in general is a money-raising endeavor. They take money in and then they redistribute it according to whatever needs of the citizens of the town are. The way they do that is either through taxes or through fees, or a balance of both. And I think personally that Rochester has been rather successful in keeping the taxes down. To balance that, we're in the process of raising the fees. I think that the fee specific adjustment is justified because instead of, let's say, the general populace paying for someone's site plan or whatever subdivision, anything like that, that the person who's either benefiting from that particular action pays for the action, as opposed to everyone else having to chip in to cover the cost. On a specific note, with these particular numbers, there's something that's I feel is missing as far as where we have the 4,000 square foot limit. I think that there's nothing in this about agriculture. If a farmer wants to put up a 10,000 square foot barn or a greenhouse that has to go through for the site plan approval, which most of them shouldn't have to, but I know darn well that some of them end up in front of those. I think there should either be an exemption or a cap to the fees, because putting up a 10,000 foot arena or a barn is not the same as putting up a 10,000 square foot house.
Or 10,000 square foot commercial property, commercial entity. Okay.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, other than that, I don't really have any issues with the numbers, except for the fact that I really think that the agriculture and farming needs to have some kind of adjustment.
So Patrick, do you support it? What I'm sensing is that you would support increasing the fees in order to lay off the cost, if you would, to those that are doing the project, as opposed to coming out of the general fund through tax dollars, with some sort of gimme or acknowledgement of the cost of running a farm, and to encourage farming, to keep some sort of a cap at some point. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, capping it on the agricultural uses.
Okay. All right. Patrick, that's great. I hadn't thought about the agricultural one. I know you personally many years ago were involved in something like that, weren't you?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much how I got here. Yeah. So
That was
that
was a debate of agriculture versus commercial special events.
Okay. But some personal experience brought to bear on the question. Zach, would you like to comment next?
Yeah, so I have a question. I want to know how we came up with the numbers on the spreadsheet.
Zach, if there's a page in there in the file, the draft fee stuff, you have all these neighboring towns. And I basically went through all the neighboring towns, and I didn't do a robust enough spreadsheet to put them all into other columns for you guys. I need to be paid for that. But I went through and I basically looked where we were really off, really low, or really high. We were never really high, and put us in sort of the low end of the median.
So I see that we compared the prices on the spreadsheet to Marbletown, Woolworthing, Lloyd, New Paltz, and Pleasant Valley.
Exactly. I just used the ones that we got provided. Yeah.
So we didn't compare to the town of Olive, which is more of a neighboring town to us than the town of Lloyd, I would say.
Totally. So if you want to throw that in.
I want to point out that New Paltz is, I think that we should have really honed in on the three towns, Marbletown, Woolworthing, and Olive. New Paltz, I wouldn't say really is applicable to this spreadsheet, neither is Lloyd, and Pleasant Valley is not even in Ulster County. So I don't know why we are comparing our fee raise to Pleasant Valley if it's in Dutchess County.
Because I asked Liz to get me whatever she could get. And so she does some work for Pleasant Valley. So that came in. I can tell you Pleasant Valley is way out of line, and New Paltz is way out of line in terms of their numbers. I think, Nicole, you tried to get Olive and we couldn't get it. Is that correct, or am I mixing? Or was it Hurley? Or was it Hurley?
I
We
did
couldn't.
reach out to them. That wasn't in any of the.
But your point, Zach, is well taken. I'm not looking at Pleasant Valley and New Paltz. They were so far above what Maren put here. It was way out there. But Hurley and Olive, I thought we did get Hurley.
Yeah, Hurley's is in there also.
Is in there also. So the only one missing is Olive. Maybe we can reach out to Olive, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm still looking because I feel like I
thought we did. Okay. So Zach, anything else? If assuming what I remember of New Paltz and Lloyd, what's being proposed is nowhere near the fees that they have. It's more in tune with Marbletown and Wawasing.
Here, I'm sorry, I just found, this is the response from their,
This is from Olive.
this is from Olive. She said, she gave me the wording from their code. She said they reach out to the consultant to get an estimate of their fees for the project. When the fund goes too low, they just ask the applicant to replenish. So it didn't sound like they had a definitive fee schedule. It says in the event the planning board deems it necessary, it may retain professional consultants to aid said planning board in arriving at decisions concerning any particular subdivision. The fee of the professional consultant shall be paid by the subdivider whose subdivision is being reviewed by said professional consultant. A deposit of 50% of the estimated fee is required from the subdivider or his agents at the beginning of each phase of review by the planning board.
So it sounds like she took it to mean we only were interested in the escrow fees and or they don't have application fees. So I'm wondering if you could ask them, Nicole,
I think at
specifically
the time I'd only been instructed to ask about escrow.
Okay.
But I can definitely reach back out to her about application fees.
Application fees.
And is there
Okay.
any specific reason for the sudden jump in the fees?
Lauren?
Isn't it big? I mean, isn't it mostly?
Because our town board reviews the fees on a periodic basis and asks for our input, and so this was going with what was provided there and saying, okay, you know what, like public hearing. So let's go through it, Zach. Public hearing fee. Basically you pay afterward. And so Nicole has a hard time chasing people down. The public hearing fee that you pay whatever it costs to get in the paper and whatever it costs. I mean, it's de minimis. So I put in $100. I don't even know what it is. If maybe we had an idea that in general you mail out to 5 people that are surrounding properties, and it's probably way less than that. It's probably 32. So that was an idea Nicole had, because a lot of times you end up getting hung up because you don't get the public hearing fees, which are basically the newspaper plus mailing fees ahead of time. If you look at a special use permit, if you look around, pretty much everybody is $500. So so it's saying we should be in line with everybody else. Our town is in line with everybody else. Like signs, our sign fee is perfectly fine. There's no reason to change it. Our home occupation fee, we're in line. You could do $250. Some people were at $350, some were at $300, some were at $150. So I said, okay, you can bump it up or keep it at $200. Where we start getting way underneath everybody is when you start looking at our escrow.
Yeah,
was non-existent, but is still low. And our minor subdivision initial plus lots is way low compared to everybody else. So you might not want to go up as much as I put here. I put it to sort of, this looks like the median. But it's sort of embarrassingly off from the rest of the area.
All right, let's get some other comments. There is one thing about what's driving the raising the fees, and I have an opinion about what's proposed here. But in talking to some of the town board members and also talking to Nicole, I'm getting the sense that there's some work that the town board wants to do in terms of creating efficiencies in the building department and in the planning and zoning department, meaning working with them to see if there are ways in which to do things more efficiently, working on what I would call a procedures manual, so that if we had something that happened when Brianna left and Nicole came on board and there was nothing in writing as to how things were done, there was a great deal of scrambling. So I'm getting the sense from the town board that there's some more professional look-see at both of those departments in terms of procedures, in terms of documenting those procedures. So work, which I would suggest is not work that should be done necessarily by volunteers. It should be work done by people that do this. So perhaps they're going to be hiring somebody to help do this, that does this as a matter of course, to quickly put together some procedural manuals so that it's not dependent upon having a person there who knows everything from A to Z, but dependent upon, here's how things work here, here's the procedure, here's the roles and responsibilities, and that's the end of that. And it doesn't matter that, you know, today we have person X and tomorrow we have person Y, and we're scrambling if somebody was to leave for some reason or another. So in that vein, you know, supporting the activities of those two departments should come somewhat from the fees that are charged for the projects that come in asking for the assistance of those departments. So I just add that as part of the rationale. And the last time I believe that fees were raised, any of these fees were raised, was back in 2008, 18 or 19. So let me keep going around the table. Zurian, I know you had some comments about linking this to median income of the different areas. Why don't you explain to the board what you were?
Yeah, okay, since you mentioned that, I was curious, we're comparing those towns, let's see how financially well off citizens there. So our town comes as what I'm saying is based on 2000 census, but I'm assuming it's essentially probably proportional. So how well as communities, and so our town is the second less of community in that list. The first one is Warsing. Is the family income is lower than in town of Rochester, and for example, the highest one is Pleasant Valley, where the median income family 1.3 times higher than in Rochester. So we should keep it in mind how community perceives it and how community can afford it. And at the same time, I want to say that we need to have some justification for each of the fee. You know, we're not just saying, all right, you're paying so much. We need to justify. We're charging because so many people involved, so many processes involved. We need to have justification for that. And then I have a couple of questions going through the list. For example, okay, first question is what application types, for what application types pre-application conference fee would be applied to? Would it apply for LLI, or does LLI has a pre-application conference? Just need a clarification. That's the same, that my question is.
So the pre-application conference, I had one of those with Mary Lou and the potential applicant, the applicant's engineer, and Liz was on the phone as well. And I told them, you have to ante up $500, and it might be more than that with our consultant's time. I don't know what it came out to be, but he anteed up the $500, which was at least showing good faith that he would cover Liz's time, professional time, and Mary Lou's professional time. So
Yeah,
that's an escrow.
Yeah, my question is gonna apply for any type of application or
If
or
somebody
only-
picks up,
only-
no, if somebody comes in and says, I want to sit down with you, how much time do you think you need? Well, I probably need at least an hour. So if they're
I
going to
see.
ask me for an hour time, and I don't want to meet with people one-on-one, and I don't want me and another board member to meet one-on-one. I want to meet with our planner and our attorney if it appears necessary, so it gets done professional rather than,
I see. Okay.
all right, so I think that's appropriate. If somebody called up and said, I want to do a lot line, what do I have to do? Well, as we've found, lot lines get pretty complicated, right? They're frequently turning
Yeah,
into,
if it's change of phase to major
typically,
subdivision.
they're going to go to the building department and, what do I need to do to get this done? And then they pay an application fee. But this is where they ask the planning board for some advice. Sometimes they come in and they say, I have this big piece of property. I don't know what to do with it. Can you give me some advice? And the answer to that is no. I can't. I'm not starting from scratch. I'm not your planner. I'm not starting from scratch. But if you come in and you have some ideas, as this one person did, it was, I don't know, 70 acres, and he wanted to put 4 houses on it. And he actually had some maps. And so we sat with him, but I said, before I sit with you, you need to give me escrow, pre-application conference escrow, whatever you want to call it. So that's what that is.
I see. Okay. Remind me, please, what is CPO hourly fee?
Say that again.
CPO hourly fee?
See, Liz, what do you get per hour?
No,
Well,
how
it
much they
isn't-
charge?
It isn't just Liz, Zorian.
No,
Somebody
I
can
understand.
Go
I
back
understand.
to an engineer or an environmental consultant. So you
Okay,
can't say just
average number, $150 per hour, average.
Liz?
My billing rate is 131.64. Greg Boldner's is probably more expensive.
Okay.
He's the engineer, so he's what, 175?
I don't know because he hasn't looked at anything since the beginning of this year, but that's kind of why I end up doing a lot of the initial review. And if there isn't enough information for the engineer to look at it, I don't give it to them because then they're just kind of spinning their wheels without the information they need.
Right. And Mary
So
Lou,
that's kind of how it works.
could you describe how you charge your fees? You give some free time to each.
Well, what the planning board, what the town board has determined.
Right.
Is that the first hour of review that I do on a file, we bill to the planning board and to the town. Anything over an hour in time for my review, and that's review outside of the planning board meetings. For anything above an hour, I charge the $175 an hour, and that comes from the escrow. But my time in meetings, like tonight, that all gets billed to the planning board.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Just clarification on the table. LLI 200 per lot or application?
I don't see where you're pulling that from.
Lot line improvement says 250, but is that per lot or per application?
That's per application because there's the lot line adjustment's only going to be 2 lots. If you're going more than that, you're going to be running into some kind of subdivision.
What
What
happens
did you
if you
say?
had multiple lots being changed, but not necessarily creating new lots? It couldn't necessarily have 3 lots included, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's per application, Zorian.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the last question, is recreation fee applied for special use permit as
No,
well?
no. Recreation fee is tied to, well, right now, if that's what you're asking, recreation fee is tied to
Subdivision
residential
plan.
residential projects, and it's based upon the number of lots that are created or houses that are created.
Right.
Is there a rec fee for individual dwelling units, like say if it's a multifamily, or have you not
No,
encountered
There's
that?
nothing there for that. No.
If it's an apartment building, we could do a rec fee. I think we have. let me
That's
look.
pretty typical now.
Right, yeah.
We don't have that now, though, do we, Mary Lou? I don't see it. I
I
don't think-
don't, I'm not sure if they charge that now.
No,
have-
don't have.
The town boards, and I think in our town, they only do it. Do they start it at 6 lots in our town?
Yeah, right
And I
now.
apologize because I have many towns and every
Right.
town does it differently.
For Rochester, it's currently 6 lots. Starting at 6 lots, it's $500 per lot.
A lot. And does it say 6 lots in a subdivision or does it say 6 units? Because it may apply to
It
more
just
than
says
just a
6.
subdivision.
It just
And
says
it's
6 lots.
500 for the rec fee
It says 6 lots and it's 500 per lot.
for the
So if
rec
you have
fee.
6 lots, it's 500 times 6 for the rec fee, 3,000. Right, but we don't have anything for unit. So if you had a multi-unit, for example, with
Walnut Creek.
Walnut Creek, yeah, we don't have an easy way of assessing that. And then
You can
what,
just edit the proposal to say per dwelling unit.
that's probably a better way of putting it, is per dwelling unit.
So it won't be applied for lot line improvement, right?
Say that again, Zorian?
It won't apply to lot line improvement, only to subdivisions.
No, only to subdivision.
Okay.
Okay. Sam, do you have any comments?
I'm very supportive of the price increases. I agree with what Patrick said about having a carve out for ag. I also, Zorian made a point about justifying these. I don't know that that's our work here, but I do think that when we send these recommendations to the town board, we encourage them to do a review of actual costs associated. Because I think, as Maren said, the work that was done here is comp work
Right.
with neighboring towns. And I think that's the appropriate thing for us to do as a planning board. But I think that, it strikes me as quite possible that some of these fees are still too low and others may be too high. It really depends on like how much administrative work goes in behind the scenes. And, like what Mary Lou was saying about how she bills her time, that's to Patrick's point about these costs should be covered by applicants ultimately. Just because something's not being billed to a client directly, that just means it's not coming out of their escrow. But ideally, the amount that Mary Lou bills for planning board meetings and for that initial hour of review that's quote unquote free to the applicant, should still be ultimately coming from these fees, in my view. And it would be good to see, some sort of comprehensive analysis done by the town board as to what the actual, cost for these various applications is. But I'm very supportive of this change with the caveat that Patrick made, fully supportive of sending this to the town board.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Mark, I'm going to jump down to you.
So I guess I have been the sole opposition before, and I have no problem being it again. And I haven't heard, there's still a couple people that still need to go, and that's fine. I think that the town of Rochester has historically been for the people in our town. And I think that the fees have been set for the past 36 months or less. I don't see the benefit to having a fee increase at all. I don't think that there is any reason to worry about what other towns are doing. I don't see the benefit of utilizing some comparative analysis based on towns that are not necessarily neighboring. I think that, as Zach mentioned, potentially looking into what the town of Olive offers and have their fees. I think that's something that we should look at and urge the town board to do some comparative analysis. I don't necessarily understand the purpose of increasing fees. Our property taxes in the town of Rochester continue to be reduced every year, which tells me that they have a surplus of money at the town level, and they're not looking for additional fees. I think that if the town board was concerned about money, or there was some issues where the planning board budget necessarily didn't comply to where it should be, I think then the town board should bring that to our attention and say, hey, we're not charging enough. It's costing the town money to have a planning board. And I don't think that we're to that point today. Although I am all about what is the town of Warsing doing? What is the town of Marbletown doing? What is the town of Olive doing? And Maren, I appreciate this comparative analysis because I did one similar. And I think that if a fee were to be increased, I think that it should be a flat fee increased across the board on a percentage basis. I'm seeing some that starts at $300 now, and we're proposing a potentially $1,000. That's 3.5 times what the current fee is. I think that's just unnecessary. I think that a recreation fee is set at 6 lots on purpose, and that is so that for those people who are trying to subdivide lots are not taken advantage of and not necessarily paying for things that they're not going to see a benefit from. So I am totally against a fee increase. I think that if the town board is interested in a fee increase, they should raise the flag saying that there is a need because there's a shortfall in revenue, and I don't see that today. So although I appreciate the escrow, I think, Rick, that was a great job on the escrow calculation in work with Liz. I think that is those numbers are fair and accurate. I don't see a necessity for an application fee increase of any kind at this point.
Okay. Mary Lou, could I ask our alternate for input?
Yes.
Anne Marie, do you have a?
No, I don't really have any input on it. I'm agreeing pretty much with Mark says, but I do think that we should keep our fees in line with other what other municipalities are doing.
Okay. All right.
Have you gone through everybody, Rick?
I think I hit everybody. Maren, I heard. Yeah, I think I heard from everybody.
And
Okay,
I just want, I'll let Mary Lou, you want to go?
No, you go, Maren. I can go when you're done.
I was just going to say that everybody does have to remember that our property tax fees, remember those nice little pie charts you get when you get your property taxes? We don't get property taxes and it doesn't all come back to the town of Rochester. The bulk of the property taxes go to welfare. They go to Medicaid. They go to pay off municipal debt at the state level. And the slice that comes back to us from property taxes is relatively small. So direct fee-based stuff, like Patrick very eloquently started this entire process off, the fee-based stuff is directly for our departments, our use, our people, etc. Property taxes, they could go up very easily, Mark, when everybody gets reassessed. And you know what? The vast bulk of it is going to go to paying for, it's going to go for paying for 100%. Medicaid. It's Medicaid.
Absolutely.
So this is the way we get money back. One of the ways we get fees that stay within our town. So that's
I totally agree 100% with what you're saying. I guess my concern is if the town of Rochester is struggling with revenue or is having issues with revenue, they should be the one who raises the red flag to say, hey, we have a problem. We're not charging enough money. We're not getting enough money, whether it be from taxes or from property taxes or school tax or applications, however they get their money. I think that conversation should start with them, on the contrary to us saying, hey, let's do a fee analysis and see what everybody is charging elsewhere and make our decision based on that. Personally, I don't care what the town of Rochester, Warsing, or Olive is doing. It has nothing to do with me. I'm more focused on Rochester, but I agree that we should be in line with others. But in this situation, I think that if there isn't a shortfall, there shouldn't be a conversation. That's just my opinion.
Mary Lou?
Okay. 2 things I want to mention, just so all of you know, this is not a revenue. It's not allowed to be a revenue sort of fee. Fees have to reflect what it actually costs in order to proceed through one of these applications. And someone brought up a very good point that the town is paying for my first hour plus my time at the meetings. So that's something that you can look at in determining how much that cost should be, or that the town board can look at. But there's always got to be a relationship between with what our fee is and what we actually spend. We can't be making money on it. It's not revenue.
Right, no, and I agree. And I'm like Nicole, we have a fee with Nicole, computers, equipment. I mean,
Right.
we have
right.
our costs, and I get that.
And that's for the town board to determine, and your recommendations, I think, go a long way. I will tell you what other towns do is all of my time is charged back to the applicant. And that way it doesn't, one applicant might have a very complicated site plan, and one may have a very simple site plan.
And I think that is an excellent idea.
And when you're charging them the same rate, it doesn't necessarily balance. What I do in Wawarsing is when I'm at a meeting, I write down how long did we spend on the application 1, application 2, application 3, and that gets charged to them. That's allowed under our code, but the town board has made the decision to try and help applicants out and encourage development by not doing that in Rochester. They can change their mind, but that is another way, that it's done in other towns.
So Mary Lou, I do,
Okay.
thanks for that reminder.
One more thing. I had one more thing, Rick. Someone had asked about rec fees. I think it was Dorian, for multifamilies and things like that. We don't charge rec fees, but in our code, they are required to set aside recreation areas.
Okay.
So it's addressed differently because we require that they actually put in those playgrounds or a pool or tennis courts or whatever.
So the project that we're going to be looking at, Walnut Hills or Walnut Brooks, they would need to have recreation area.
Yes, yes.
So Mary Lou, I understand the bit with we can't make this a revenue maker. Does that apply to recreation fees, which are deliberately, I assume, assessed in order to, should be assessed, assuming a certain number of people who need recreation in each household. And so you have some figure to help support that by virtue of your parks. Isn't that making revenue to support a specific purpose?
No, because recreation fees are specifically allowed by New York State code. New York State statute says you're allowed to do recreation fees. And the purpose is, if you're building more housing, you're going to have more residents and you're going to have to provide more recreational opportunities. Rec fees can't be used to pay your camp counselors. They can't be used for the day-to-day operation. They can only be used for capital expenditures. We're going to build a new ball field. We're going to build a pool. We're going to build a tennis court, things like that. We're going to buy a new park. We're going to buy new land to establish a new park. But so state law says the town can establish rec fees. State law says when you are charging fees for other things, there's got to be an equivalence between what you're charging and your action, and that it's to actually cover your costs.
Okay. All right.
Can I just jump in with one more thing? I just want to, it was mentioned that town property taxes somehow go to the state, and I just want to be clear that that is not what happens. I think there might have been a misrepresentation of people thinking of income tax, because that goes to the state, but town property taxes go directly to the town to directly pay town expenses. I just don't want anyone to get
Right.
confused.
And on that bill, we also have,
entertainment.
like, on that bill, you'll also have your county taxes. So when you get a tax bill, it's not all town taxes, but it is not state taxes either. It's town and county and districts, such as, if you're in a fire district or a lighting district, things like that.
Okay. Any other comments?
May I?
Yep, go ahead, Liz.
So I just want to, wholeheartedly agree with the idea of having a pre-application fee or escrow or whatever it is that is. Because I do work in a community that has a general account to cover some of those initial costs. But what happens is you'll get repeat folks coming back again and again and again, and it comes out of the town's coffers. So I think that's unfortunate, because if you're deciding whether development is feasible or not, that's a risk of doing business. You have to look into it yourself and take the consultation, and that's that. You know, and the other thing is that you're probably going to see the difference in cost depending on the scale of development, but also depending on how many times the applicant's representatives need to come back with revisions to their materials to get to the point where the planning board is satisfied. And that's also, you know, it's a way of doing business. Every applicant representative is different. And so you're going to see those changes. But, you know, I've seen applications go along that were basically for the same thing in other communities, one going along much more quickly and less costly, and another taking much longer and costing a lot more. So it's a choice on the part of the applicants.
Okay. All right. So I got a lot of input. We're not going to vote on anything tonight because there's such divergence of opinion. What I will ask is there's a sense of let's raise the fees and let's not raise the fees at all. So I'm going to ask a series of questions just to get some direction. One, is there a sense, well, I did hear that the escrow, what we did with the escrow is fine. And escrow is whatever the fee turns out to be, you got to add to the escrow to cover it. So to begin with, we really didn't have enough even to get things started. So we'll just leave escrow off to the side, with the exception of the pre-application conference escrow, which I kind of support having something formal for that. So that is, those two things aside, is there a general acceptance that recreation fee as presented here, we already have one for 6 lots or more. We need to do something for units, anticipating that there would be units. Perhaps we have to do something, but that we also need to charge something for 5 lots, 4 lots, 3 lots, and 2 lots, not just 6 and above. A reasonable number, less than $500 per lot. I think the number was $250. Is there a consensus of, out of the 7 people on the board, that doing something with rec fees would be acceptable? And can I get an agreement by just a voice vote of aye for making some adjustment to rec fees to account for 2 lot, 3 lot, 4 and 5 lot subdivisions? So those who are in agreement signify by aye.
Aye.
1,
Aye.
2. Okay, maybe I should go the other way. Those against doing something with rec fees, just say against.
Against.
1, 2. Okay. So there's a consensus to do something at least with the rec fees. On the
Rick, I'm sorry, but again, how's the town gonna use it? As a
Mary Lou just defined how it has to use it.
Yeah, but do we have any capital project in the town? I mean, have we done anything in the past?
Well, Zorian, we
Pickleball
could.
courts, right,
Okay.
that's, you collect it so that you can do a
You can
capital.
do something. If you don't have any money, you
Right.
can't do a project.
And let me just look, I have to tell you, I don't know any towns, and they may be there, Liz may know differently than I don't know any towns that assess rec fees on less than 4 lots. Do you, Liz?
Yeah, I actually do, but you know, those are towns that have maybe a bigger park system, a lot more pressure for development than Rochester is experiencing.
Okay.
And, you know, need for repairs and all that business. So
Mary Lou, you're saying 4 and less, nobody charges for rec fees for that?
Not that I know of. I'm not saying there's no one that does, but the towns that I've represented, City of Kingston, it generally starts at 4 lots.
At 4 lots, okay,
That's about right.
okay.
Which, Rick, I would be in favor of a 4 or more. I think that's
Okay.
realistic.
Zach,
I'll be in favor of 4 or more, but
okay, all right, good, we have a consensus on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now on the other fees, and yeah, there's some of these fees going up 300%, some are going up 200%, some are going up 50%. And I don't know what the right number is. Is there a general feeling or consensus that raising it by the same percentage for each category, unless it's egregiously low, like the application conference where there was nothing being charged, but 15 or 20% across the board, maybe with some exceptions, is something that everybody could live with?
I think that's more realistic than 300%. I think it's a difficult justification at that high.
All right, I'm seeing Mark, Sam, Zurian, Zach.
Which fee you're talking about in general?
All of them across the board. I'm just, rather than going through each one, I'm saying, why don't we just look at a 20-25% increase in each one, just across the board. There has to be, I'm sure there's some semblance of logic that went into the existing fees from years ago. So assuming that, and assuming that costs go up and inflation goes up, and of course inflation is not at 25%, that happened back in the early 80s, 15%. But assuming that there is inflation, is there a consensus that we increase across the board 20-25%? And I'm not going to define it any more than that. And I'm not going to do anything until I show it to everybody. Can I get a consensus for that? Yes, Patrick.
Can we just agree that the fees should be raised by the same percentage across the board as opposed to picking a particular percentage?
Yes, but we have to, that same percentage across the board, we have to pick a percent. But across the board, yes, that's what I'm proposing. 20%.
Rick,
Wait a minute, I want to finish with,
did Mark said when last time they were increased, it was 2018?
Yes, I think it was.
I think it was 2018 is what I based on my knowledge, yes.
I will check
so
that.
how we justify 25% for just 3 years?
Well, Zorian, right now CPI is running at 7.5%, and CPI has been running at 2%. Do you want to compound 2018, 19, 20, 21, and 22 over 5 years, and I'll give you 25% there, all right?
Okay, perfect. I want to see the number.
We have our financial whiz here.
I don't know if I cut you off.
Myron, you done? You done?
I also think that there's a difficulty with just choosing a number and saying 25 across the board, where if you look at this, we shouldn't raise our sign fees. Everybody's sign fee, I don't think this is something that you just raise it. It's like you don't go on a plane.
That's a good point.
You don't go on a plane and they say oh, let's just raise everything. If you're in the back of the plane, they charge you something different. If you're in first class, they charge you something different. So signs shouldn't go up, but maybe we're really low on major subdivisions on the basic fee, and that should be more in line with what is done everywhere. And maybe some of our stuff should come down. People charge, if you go and look at individual fees in a lot of this, and Liz would know this better, they nickel and dime you to death. They charge you a site plan, then they charge you a special use. You can be charged for seeker separately, but legally by some 617 Mary Lou probably knows. So at the end of the day, someone ends up having a $500 to $1,000 fee, but
you can charge 2% of the total project cost for seeker. That's it.
So
if you're building $1 million building, it's different than if you're building, if you have a project that's going to cost you $5,000.
I think we got some more work to do.
So that's exactly, Mary Lou's point is super well taken, because that means somebody else has a totally different way they look at fees. And other people look at fees. A lot of people use charges per square foot for everything. Like the site plan fee or your subdivision fee is like $100, but then they charge for every inch that you do something, and every inch that you do something is something else. So there's
Right.
an awful lot of soup to nuts here. And I think Mark is right. There's a lot more analysis than saying like 25% across the board is totally irrelevant to different fee structures.
All right, so how about we do this? Who's willing to do more analysis? Because I'm trying to make this simple, and apparently we want to do more analysis. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to volunteer Patrick and Maren. Anybody else to work on this?
How soon?
Who?
How soon?
Like
How
right
soon?
now.
Like now, the town needs it now.
So Zorian, are you volunteering?
No, unfortunately, I'm going out of town in a couple of
Okay,
days.
so
I'll
Patrick
help if
and
you need a body.
Maren. Okay, Mark. So the three of you do the analysis, and how about you come, get back to me with something. I like to keep it simple, but I don't have a problem doing more analysis. That's fine. When do you think you can have it by?
I don't know. I'm driving 14 hours to South Carolina, so I'll just sit there and run spreadsheets on fees.
Okay. That's good.
Maren, when do you leave?
Thursday morning early.
Can we do something tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow is totally booked.
How about Mark? How about sometime between now and the next meeting? How do we?
I'll get with Patrick and Maren and we'll slam something together. We'll get it done.
And
Can I suggest that the three of you talk to Tim in the supervisor's office? Because I do like my escrow fees, so that there's charged separately to people over that hour, but you can find out what I charged to the planning board last year, and I think it's rather significant.
Yeah.
What you can look at what I charged for just planning board matters, unfortunately not broken down by site plan, special use, and subdivision, but you'll see how much I charged right to the planning board, and then maybe you can look at how many subdivisions did we have, how many site plans did we have,
Right, and come up with a number per.
and maybe you'll be able to come up with something.
Exactly.
In
To
that
say
way.
like that would, it could, right, take the $300 to 350, or take the $300 to 7,000, depending on what the number
Right,
is.
right.
Sure.
Okay.
Also,
Patrick,
I'm sure
you
this
vote?
is very obvious to you guys, but we should look at the wages paid to our secretary, and also all of us get like a $20 take yourself out for pizza honorarium. And those, we should just like get it. If we had a rough sense of the total, but you guys are much smarter than me. You'd
I
have
think
to-
I run 300 per hour. What do you run per hour, Mark?
I'd rather not
Yeah,
say.
but
For
that's
this
not what you
analysis?
charge.
I'd rather not say.
Oh, if we're going to do a detailed analysis, yeah, what Mary Lou said is appropriate, and then get the total actual budget for both the planning department and the building department. Get those numbers, add them all up, add what Mary Lou is charging to the town on the arm, because the town's agreed to pay for it. Add all those numbers up, take the projects, and begin to figure out the average and what on average we had been charging on the current fee schedule for each of those kinds of projects. X times Y, does it equal the total cost?
I think we're gonna need some more time.
I
Yeah,
suggest
exactly.
it'll take time, but I also suggest that you won't come up with the actual cost. You're gonna be way
Right,
under.
so we're gonna go, I'll get those items from the town tomorrow. I'll ask Tim and get a request into them.
The other thing here is, we've created a lot of wheels that we have sent to the town board that have died on the shelf.
Right.
So if the town board is going to do, as Sam said, hire somebody who is an external consultant who knows how to do this, who has the comparables, and we do this just to spin our wheels. I'll spin my wheels when I'm a salaried employee of somebody, but to spin my wheels as a volunteer, that this is just going to be ignored and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And Rick, you have an assignment to go back and see, what do they really need from us? What do they really want from us? And if this is this necessary to the decision base? Are they going to just do it themselves? Are they
Good
going to
point.
hire somebody that's outside?
point.
Because then they just go do it. There's no reason to do any of this if it's going to end up on a shelf.
Yeah, they're gonna do it anyway.
And they're going to do it anyway.
I'll talk to Mike, the supervisor tomorrow, Wednesday, and either tomorrow or Wednesday. And I'll get a sense for just to what extent he wants us to work on this, or is this getting too much into their pants and they'd rather do it themselves?
And Rick, just let us know if you want to task us, then Patrick, Marin, and I will jump on a call and we'll get it done. But if he says they're going to do it anyway, you don't need us.
Right.
Okay.
Rick,
Hang on. But I am going to tell him that we had at least we have a consensus on rec fees.
I agree.
Yeah, we're heading for a wreck, all right.
And we agreed on 4 or 5 lots, right? That we needed to do something with that.
I think you said 4 or more.
Yeah. Okay, Zorian.
yeah, I just want to make it clear for everybody, for myself as well, because Mark started talking that it was our initiative to do that. So it's coming from the town to review it, correct?
Well, no, it wasn't our initiative. It was Mike asking, do you guys have any ideas of
Right.
fees
Okay.
that way? And I said, well, let me talk to the board. So that's where we're at.
Okay,
Here we
because Mark starting commenting that why we're doing this when town doesn't do that. So it's kind of clarifying.
I always feel, okay, any other comments? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Was that Patrick?
That was
That was
Sam.
Sam.
Oh,
Yes,
Sam, okay.
I'll
Second.
it.
So we're done?
Patrick's all
Second
over
by
you in
who?
second.
Somebody second.
Patrick.
Seconded,
Patrick. All in
Done.
favor?
Patrick.
Doesn't need a vote. Aye.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Thanks for all that you
Bye.
do.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.